Hello, and welcome to the second Table Football Monthly Lockdown Special. You are joining me this week in my control room. This is where the pictures for the programme are edited, the audio is cleaned up and sorted out, where narrations and additional voiceovers are done. We create all the music here as well. And because I'm running a little close to the wire with this week's episode, that's why I'm sat here now rather than strolling about in the studio outside. Before we get into the programme proper, I do want to say a sincere and genuine thank you to all of you for your kind comments and emails after last week's programme. They're really a boost. I can't tell you. They're a massive boost because it is truly weird making this programme on my own. I do miss Danielle and Smithy enormously, not just for their contribution to the programme, but the fooling about, the feedback, the coffee breaks. It really is normally a family style show. So thank you, I really do appreciate it. Now, what have we got for you this week? Well, in a moment I'll get off my chair with wheels and do the draw to pick out a winner from last week's competition. Whoever is drawn will win these two excellent limited edition Subbuteo teams that were supplied by Subbuteo World. The question was, which keeper moved from West Brom to Aston Villa in the 70s and was known for having one of the longest throws in the game? I don't know why I'm bothered telling you this now, because it seems you all knew. It was, of course, Jimmy Coombs, who was also a professional cricketer. So many of you have got the question right. I think there's 65 or something names going into the hat in a moment. And over 30 of you got it right on the first day. So the question wasn't hard enough, obviously. So we'll do that draw in a minute. To those of you who entered the March Table Football Monthly competition to win the Astrobase startup kit, that competition will still end and the winner will be drawn at the end of this month. Because we gave you until April the 18th to get your entries in, we've got to keep that one going in the interests of fairness. Now, this week we have a competition that I hope is going to blow your head off. I'm really thrilled with this week's prize. I wasn't going to show it to you now. I thought I'd leave it till later in the programme. But I'm like a kid on Christmas Eve. I want you to see it now. The winner of this week's competition will get the gorgeous new Pegasus 5-a-side game. Hopefully, I'm going to put a cutaway up now so you can see the gorgeous Astroturf pitch in here. You get 2 goals, 2 teams, a ball, everything, so you can just start playing the minute you take the lid off. It really is a superlative prize, once again, from Subbuteo World. Now, I can't tell you what the question's going to be yet because I haven't thought of it. I've got to think of something that really gets you lot thinking. So that'll happen later in the programme. We've also got a review of a game I've been searching for 4.5 years. And all of you collectors will know that there's often that one elusive thing you can't get. Well, after last week's programme, I dropped an email to Paul Woosley at oldfootballgames.co.uk to thank him for his help on last week's programme. And I said, I have got this game I'm looking for, and you may be the man to help me. And I sent him this advert that I've kept on me for all these 4 years to remind me. Paul got back and in a rather deadpan way said, yeah, I've got that. I've got one of those you can have. So it arrived this week. The game is called Soccercraft and I'll be doing a review of that. It's a fabulous game. When it arrived, it was everything I wanted it to be. I've had the lid off. I've had a play today. I absolutely love it. I hope you're going to enjoy it too. So, oodles in the programme, but what we need to do now is get on with the draw. Now, what would be a smooth segue would be for me to get up and walk off shot. But I've put the camera in the tripod in the doorway, so I'm trapped. There is no way to do this with any dignity. So, let's just pretend that I'm actually in the other room now. So it's 10 to 1 in the morning on Friday the 10th of April. The programme will hopefully be on air later this evening. Now, before we open the drawer here and pull out our tub with all the successful answers in there, I just want to show you a list of all the names that are in the hat that got the quiz question last week correct. I'm only going to leave it on screen for a second, so if you want to scroll through and check your names on it, put it on pause or have a look at it later. So here we go. These are all the correct names. And here you all are. I've forgotten about social distancing, so you're all a little bit close. If you're wondering why the Flick to Kick Subbuteo book is here, so we can put it on the lid, give it a good shake all about, and I'll pop it in there without looking. Okay, so the winner from last week's competition to win these two rather gorgeous Subbuteo teams, shall I go to the very bottom, is Kevin Halliday. Well done, Kevin. These two teams are yours. We'll be getting them to you as soon as possible, and I'll be in touch by email. Thank you for entering, and congratulations, Kevin. A regular viewer of the programme and regular correspondent, Gerald Coyle, got in touch after last week's programme to say he'd enjoyed the Leeds-Sunderland recreation of the '73 Cup final, and that he would really like to see Celtic's victorious European Cup win in 1967 against Inter Milan in Lisbon. Well, Gerald, I was pleased to get the request because we'd largely done a lot of the work already. So here you have the Lisbon Lions becoming the first British club and the only Scottish club to win the European Cup in 1967. Jock Stein, Billy McNeil and the boys from a 30-mile radius of Celtic's ground doing the unbelievable.
Inter Milan looked really dangerous here. Capellini was brought down by Craig. A penalty. With the spot kick, Mazzola made no mistake. Then fullback Tommy Gemmell shot from 25 yards out. Barely 7 minutes from time came the winning goal. Chalmers deflected Murdoch's shot past Saki. That was how Celtic became the first ever British team to win the European Cup.
Our first product review today is a biggie, and I mean that literally. It is the new Pegasus 5-a-side Astro Pitch edition. Now, this isn't the first Pegasus 5-a-side. There was another one about 3 or 4 years ago. That had an Astro Pitch in it, much as this one does. But this one is slightly different. So let's take a look. The first thing you're going to notice when I take off the lid is that we have a circular mown pattern on the pitch. We have our 2 goals, our 2 teams, our ball, so we're good to go. But there we have a rather attractive pitch. So I think the first thing we've got to do is put the players on it and have a little knockabout. The set comes with 2 flexible ankle Subbuteo teams. As you'd expect from a Pegasus Astroturf, the ball runs true and the players slide beautifully. The only issue, like my footballing school days, is that everybody wants to be number 9. But that's an oversight, I'm sure. But for a real blast, stick some flat-based players on the pitch, an 18mm ball, and be a table football hooligan. So that's it, the Pegasus 5-a-side Astroturf edition. Whether you choose to use traditional Subbuteo players on it, or whether you prefer to use flats like the Zugos I've used, either way, it'll be a blast. And of course it is also this month's prize. I'm glad that went in, otherwise I'd have had to do the whole thing again. So if you would like to own one of these, do stay tuned because I'll be giving you the quiz question shortly. This game review is one that I never thought would happen. As I mentioned in the introduction to the programme, this is a game I've been looking for 4.5 years. And thanks to a simple exchange of emails with Paul Woosley at oldfootballgames.co.uk, I am now the proud owner of Soccercraft, created by Sportstime Products Limited and is, I believe, from 1968. When I first saw this game, which was this ad in one of the football magazines I bought, I had no idea how it was played, I had no idea how it worked. I just really liked the look of it. So I think we should get the lid off so we can all have a look what lies beneath the lid. A lovely and effective box lid. All the thrills of real soccer, dribbling, tackling, shooting and goalkeeping. And there we are. Now, of course, we have the ubiquitous blue and red teams, but these are different. The design is lovely. They're in a nice pose. The embossed numbers on the back are really good. They faded a little bit with time. We have two excellent looking goals with very nice scale netting and keepers on rods. We also get a pitch and the rules. And I cannot tell you how much I'm looking forward to laying this out on the table next to this one and having a little play with it. Let's go. Well, here it is, Soccercraft, fully laid out, and I have to admit right from the start, I'm rather excited. I love the way this game looks. Now, parts of this game will immediately be familiar. The pitch, very similar size to Subbuteo, maybe just a tad smaller, and the goals the same width and height as Subbuteo. The players, if I stand them alongside old Subbuteo heavyweights, are a good bit bigger, but suit the scale of the pitch. Now, before any of you write in and ask, the red Subbuteo player has been adapted to represent the 1958 Manchester United European Cup side, and the blue has been adapted to match the Leicester City 1961 Cup final side, but more of that later on. So back to the pitch, we'll recognise the keepers are on a rod, and the pitch is covered in a grid. Now the grid serves two purposes. Like Waddington's table football, the Tiddlywinks based game we've looked at, and Big League, which we showcased a few weeks ago, possession goes to the team nearest the ball. The grid certainly helps you make that decision. The second and more important reason for the grid, it is the way by which the players move around the pitch. So what I thought we'd do is we'll start slowly, demonstrate the rules before we get into a proper game. Basic operation of the game couldn't be simpler. Take the player between thumb and forefinger, approach the ball and kick it. So in this instance, Colin Harvey wants to play the ball out to his midfield teammate, Alan Ball. Bobby Charlton is not within one square of the player, so as long as it's accurate, we're in business. Had Bobby Charlton been closer, if an opposing player is one square away from the ball, then he can take possession. So whichever square Bobby Charlton is in, he can move in and intercept, giving possession to United. So you have to choose your passes quite carefully. Possession and movement in Soccercraft really couldn't be more straightforward. Here, Howard Kendall is on the ball for Everton. He has two choices. He can pass the ball or he can dribble. If he chooses to dribble, like Subbuteo, he can hit the ball 3 times before a colleague has to take over. If he passes the ball, he wants to pass to a player in space. Now, right now, he's quite well served. His fellow midfielder doesn't have a United player within a square of him. Here, the player is free, and so is the winger. Even the centre forward hasn't got a player within a square, and the winger. So every player we can see in blue is an option. That may look as if United's defence is in disarray, but actually they're quite well spread and ready to cover anything that occurs. So Kendall decides to dribble, and as long as the ball stays closer to him than an opponent, he's okay to do so. He has slightly changed his angle. So now both teams can move one player. United suddenly see the danger of Joe Royal up front. Joe moves forward to find more space. United decide they want him marked, so they bring back a midfielder so their defensive line remains intact. Kendall decides to pass to a teammate. Then the whole thing starts again. Both teams can move one player, one square. So here, the midfielder moves into a good forward position. This puts the fullback in a real tiswas, because if he moves this way to cover the advancing midfielder, he leaves the winger free, and he moves wide, he leaves this chap in an awful lot of space. This is how you can use the grid and movement to create opportunities. It really does make for quite a tactical game. Normal offside rules do apply. Now here, Morrissey has the chance to put Royal through. Royal is just onside. That's the pass. Everton forego their opportunity to move an attacking player a square forward. United move Bill Fulks in to try and block. Royal puts the ball past the keeper. Now had Smithy been here to hold that keeper, that would have been a fairly straightforward save. In this United attack, Bobby Charlton is screaming for the ball. Brian Kidd is just onside. That's the pass. On the far wing, George Best moves in one square. For Everton, John Hurst comes across to cover. Again, sadly, we have nobody holding the goalkeeper due to our isolation regulations. Charlton gives it a wallop. And what a glorious equaliser. For free kicks, defenders have to be 3 squares back. Each team can move 3 players any distance they like. So, United might move Dennis Law in and bring George Best in. Everton can cover. There's 1, 2, 3. Okay, and again, without Smithy to keep goal, if I can get this on target with Bobby Charlton, we might see United take a lead. Oh, hit the wall. Now that leads us nicely onto the next rule. If a player is knocked over in play by the ball, he is considered injured, which means he is taken off and can't come back onto the pitch until 4 moves have taken place. So for the time being, Everton are down to 10 men. Had we believed the ball had hit his hand, then it would have been a penalty. We'll get into playing the game properly in just a moment. But before we do, a message for Neil Franks. He wrote to me last week, I think it was, talking to me about the fencing and the different combinations I use. Regular viewers will know that on the Subbuteo Challenge I have alternate red and white fencing. Sometimes I've used the traditional green. Well, Neil, this time round we've got the Old Trafford fencing in red. And if you have a look at this picture here, you'll see the inspiration for the Subbuteo fencing and the red and white colour scheme. So I put it around the ground to add a bit of atmosphere in the absence of any terracing. The second thing is, partly to keep my imagination going and partly to give us a little bit of colour to this, because the game we're looking at came out in '68, I thought I'd look at the 1969-70 season to see when Manchester United and Everton actually met. And it happened on August the 13th, right at the start of the season. Now, what was interesting about that is United, back in the May, had become the second British team to win the European Cup, beating Benfica 4-1. Nobody at that stage knew that the forthcoming season was going to be Matt Busby's last in charge of the team. For Everton, under Harry Catterick, they were developing nicely. Their midfield trio of Colin Harvey, Howard Kendall and Alan Ball were becoming a force to be reckoned with. In the young Joe Royle, Johnny Morrissey on the wing, they had real attacking potential. And at the back, with England's Brian LeBone and Tommy Wright and England cap goalkeeper Gordon West, they didn't look like conceding many goals. So this early game in August between United and Everton would give us a good idea of where the Division 1 title was going to go. So that's how we'll set up the game. Let's see how we get on. A wonderfully thought out game of skill and strategy and worth the wait. And to round the story off, this is how the 69-70 Division 1 table looked at the end of the season. That's just about it for this week's edition, I'm afraid. I'm sorry it's not as long as usual, but the week didn't provide quite as much time as I hoped it would. But we are going to more than make up for it next week by putting our focus onto an aspect of Subbuteo that is often a little bit overlooked, and that is the Subbuteo lightweights. We will be doing a super bumper edition on those next week, as well as all the usual stuff. Now, I can't run off without giving you a competition question. Now, I've been thinking about it all through this episode. The question is, where in the English League can you be playing away but still be at home? Where in the English League can you be playing away but still be at home? If you would like to win that rather gorgeous Pegasus 5-a-side Astroturf edition, then please, if you can, get me your answers by the end of next Wednesday. And please send the answers to the usual email address. Please don't put your answers in the comment section below the video, because if you do, I'm sorry to be a pain, but I have to remove them and they won't be included. Well, that wraps us up. Thanks as always for your tremendous support, your very, very interesting and welcome emails, and I will see you same place next week. Thanks for watching.